So today I'm going to be talking about the cognitive attitudes. So everybody has 8 cognitive functions. They have extroverted sensing, they have introverted sensing, um, introverted thinking, introverted feeling, extroverted feeling, introverted intuition, extroverted intuition. I believe that's. I mean, I should have been like counting on my fingers, but I believe that's all 8. Depending on what order they're in your personality stack determines your personality. And each of these functions has a specific attitude, like I said before. First attitude is your hero function. This is the function that determines which whether or not you're an introvert or an extrovert. If your hero function is extroverted, then you're an extrovert. If your hero function is introverted, then you're an introvert. Why is that? Because your hero function is literally the only function that gives you energy when you use it without taking any away. Like your child function gives you energy, yeah, but it also is using energy while you're using it. So the one that energizes you, that one that restores all of your energy back, gets you really, like, I'm not talking about a fucking like thetans or anything. I'm talking about like, oh, I feel energized now because I'm using this function. That's what I'm talking about. Like, it gives you energy to it brings you life again to use this function. And this is your most powerful function. It's your most enthusiastic function. So for an ENTP, what we naturally do, because our hero function is extroverted intuition, is that when somebody, like, literally when anybody says anything, they're like, oh, I don't know why this person did this, and I'm just like, because this, even if I don't know the person, I'm like working off of like a short amount of context, I ask for a little bit of detail, and then I'm like, okay, that's probably their intention. Extroverted intuition hero is all about finding out people's intentions. You don't even have to ask me to do it. I'll automatically think about it and be like, bleh, intention. so that's an example of what a hero function looks like. For an ESTP or an ESFP, they like to perform, because extroverted sensing is about manipulating the environment around them. So if they're using it in an extroverted context, or like a people context, they would try to make people laugh. From what I've seen, extroverted sensing heroes really get energized by making people laugh. So, because it's like a direct reaction, they're trying to get a direct reaction out of people. So that's your hero function. You gain energy from it. It's your most powerful function. That's basically the gist of it. So your secondary function is your parent function. This one is usually developed last, even though it's your second function. What the parent function basically does is, it's like everybody else is doing this function irresponsibly, so it's my job to do this function responsibly. So for like TI parent, they think how everybody else is thinking so irresponsibly, so it's my job to find the truth and make sure that it is the truth. Or for an FI parent, everybody else is so irresponsible with how they feel in their morality, so it's my job to have the best morality and make sure that I'm being a good example, and so on and so forth. The third function is your child function, and it is where you are most vulnerable, I would say, because it is where it's where you're the most innocent. It's where you're the most gleeful. Like I said before, it's one of those functions that has like a lot of, it gives you energy to use it, but at the same time, it's not your hero function. So you are still using energy while you use it. It's kind of like basically, if you know anything about macros, the child function is like protein, and the hero function is like carbs and fats. Carbs and fats give you energy, lots of energy. They don't necessarily like use a lot of energy in order to like ingest carbs and fat. So that would be your hero function. And for the child function, it's like protein. And protein, it gives you energy, but it also takes a lot of energy in order to break proteins down in your body. So the child function basically works like that in terms of energy. It still gives you a lot of energy to use it, and a lot of times the hero function and the child function are on together in most contexts. I actually don't know if you can even turn the child function off because it's like always. Like I was watching an interview, like it was like a Hot Wings Buffalo thing interview with an ESTP, and he was like fucking dying, and like he was using something really spicy, and he was like dying, and even while he's dying, he reaches over to the guy that's interviewing him. He's like, you're a beautiful man. I really appreciate you. Like kind of still using that effie child, even though he's dying over here. So the I mean the child function in general is always on in context with the here, but it is always enthusiastic and like looking to put itself out there, especially when people are younger. The child function really wants to show itself and just do good to the world and be innocent. Well, not necessarily do good to the world, but it's looking for some kind of a recognition, like a kid. So the fourth function in your stack is your inferior function, and this is the function that's really sensitive. Like I'm pretty sure it's sensitive no matter how old you get, like how mature you get and how good at shit you become, because I mean it gets a little more protected, a little more like when it's more developed, but I think it's always going to be a tender spot for people. My inferior function is introverted sensing, so that makes it so that if I'm intensely uncomfortable, I will either get really mad or really upset. And I'm not talking about like emotionally uncomfortable. I'm talking about like physically uncomfortable. SI inferior does not like being physically uncomfortable at all. Like I hate it. Like one way to get me to start raging, well not raging, but like really irritating, is to like put me in a hot room and make me do things that I don't want to do. Like I can do the sauna, because the sauna you're supposed to be hot. But it like at work, at my current job, I'm usually like working really fast paced right next to a hot machine, and it's terrible, and I probably should quit that job at some point. But anyway, the inferior function the inferior function is for a TI inferior, it would be like it TI inferior really wants to it's really looking to develop those logical thoughts, because your inferior function borders on being unconscious. So you have your conscious functions up here, there's 4 of them, and the last one is like teetering on being in the unconscious. And it's like you're subconsciously aware of the fact that your fourth function is weak. So you're always looking to develop it. And if people don't allow you to do that, it gets you really peeved. And this is especially obvious with ENFJs and ESFJs when they are trying to speak their minds and trying to like tell people their thoughts and see if the thoughts are good, if they like can be tested out in the real world. And usually with the TI inferior, they're not really as articulated as somebody who has TE and TI to like complementary high TE. So the result is their thoughts are really abstract, and especially in FJs, their thoughts are really inarticulated. They're low resolution. So when they tell people their thoughts, if the thoughts aren't packaged up nicely and neatly, what you'll find in most cases is that people don't want to listen. That's a problem for ENFJs and ESFJs, because TI inferior hates not being listened to. So it's kind of like it's something that they struggle with a lot. If you know what somebody's inferior function is, don't touch it. Like don't Like for example, if TI inferior is talking, let them talk. Don't talk over them. They're gonna piss them off. If you know that somebody is SI inferior, try not to make them uncomfortable because they will get pissed off. If somebody is NI inferior, try to give them as many choices as you can, and don't try to order them around too much or take away things that they consider to be something that makes them free, because NI inferior really hates their freedom being taken away, and that will piss them off. That pisses, yeah. I mean, that one is probably the most direct, because you can try to tell an ESTP or an ESFP what to do, and then they'll be like, "Fuck you, no," and they'll start throwing shit. Well, if they're really immature. But that's the inferior. Don't touch the for the top four functions. Don't hurt the child, especially not the child, and don't hurt the inferior, because they will get pissed. They will get really pissed, and they will not like you. Probably the quickest way to not to make somebody not like you is to hit them in the inferior function. So okay, that's the full consciousness stack. That's the main point that people focus on. But people are also damn. Okay, so that's the end.